So I love those SportsCenter ESPN commercials. They're my favorites, right? And one of my favorite ESPN SportsCenter commercials was with a man who retired from basketball in 1977. He's in the Basketball Hall of Fame, and he's had quite the political career as well as a former senator and former presidential candidate. I want to play this ESPN commercial real quickly. It's a SportsCenter commercial starring the very own Bill Bradley. Have a listen to this.
Just because you're a former athlete, it doesn't qualify you to be a SportsCenter anchor.
After the Olympic gold medal, the Rhodes Scholarship, 10 years with the New York Knicks, I was a U.S. Senator for 18 years.
How about any writing experience?
Well, I wrote 3 books, one on the bestseller list, and the Tax Reform Act of 1986.
But no TV writing.
Any experience in front of an audience?
Well, I gave a keynote address at the Democratic National Convention.
I meant a large audience.
Oh.
I love it. That's one of my favorite commercials.
No,
of
funny.
course, it is the great former Senator Bill Bradley joining us right now on the line. Senator Bradley, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Hey guys, nice to be with you.
What do you remember
Thanks a lot,
about
Senator.
What do you remember about doing some of those ESPN commercials? Because I thought those were great.
Well, it was a lot of fun. You know, that one you just played actually won an Emmy. I got it in my office.
I love it. It's so great. Well, Senator, we'll talk about some fun subjects in a short period of time here, but let's talk about the political divide in this country. You have so much experience as a former senator. You ran for president. What do you make of the divide we have in this country right now? I've never seen anything like it. What would you say to it?
Well, I think it's a tragedy. I think that the only way we're going to confront our problems in this country, frankly, or in the world, is if we do things together. And basically, the failure to get agreement and find common ground is making everything from global warming to the economy to education to health care. It's making it all much worse. Mm-hmm. And you put that in the context of divisions at the time of a pandemic, and it's a life and death matter.
Senator Bradley, you know Joe Biden very well. You've worked with him. I'm voting for Joe Biden just because I think he's a decent man. He's a good human being, and I would say the opposite when it comes to Donald Trump. But as someone who worked with him, tell me why you're supporting him. What can you tell some of the listeners about Joe Biden that maybe they don't know?
Well, I've known Joe Biden for 40 years. I think he's a man of character. He's a man of his word. He is a dedicated public servant with a lot of experience. In fact, he'd probably be the most experienced president since Lyndon Johnson in terms of knowing how to get things done. He has had a history of reaching across the aisle to people and finding that common ground. And I think we'll need him more than ever before in 2021, given the fact that the pandemic is still going to be around, the economy's in a bad shape, we continue to have strife, and we need to find a way to deal with global warming, among other things. Look at all these fires in California and Oregon and Washington. Sure. And we only do that when we bring people together, and he has that capacity. He's a uniter, not a divider.
Sure.
And I think, quite frankly, that I would say to a lot of my Republican friends, I would say, you know, let's just think about where we really want to take the country, and let's end the chaos, right? Let's
Sure.
just end the chaos.
Sure.
I mean, I know you tell your family and friends you're going to vote for Trump, but then vote for Biden. And no one will ever know.
That's
right?
true. That's true. Senator, what are your biggest criticisms of Donald Trump since he's been in office the last 3.5 years?
I think he's failed in the fundamental job of a president, and that's to be a leader that unites. We have a very diverse country. His leadership, I think, has been non-existent in terms of the pandemic. Almost 200,000 Americans are dead now, and 6.5 million or plus have had the disease. I think he's failed in that. I think that he has also tended to divide us. He would always play to what what you don't like about someone else as opposed to what we like about each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's been an incredibly negative impact on America.
You hear a lot. I'm sorry, Senator. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead. That's all right.
You hear a lot of people on the right, and I'm not one of those people, that go after Joe Biden and his mental acuity. You hear the Trump campaign. He's been in the basement. He can't put a sentence together. What is your response to that as a friend, as a personal friend of Joe Biden? You know him better than anybody. What would you say to those people with those right-wing talking points?
I would say they must be very desperate if they're trying to say Joe Biden is not up to the job. Of course he's up to the job. And look, we'll see in the debate, we'll see his energy level. I haven't seen Trump riding a bicycle around like Joe Biden was.
That's true.
I mean, it's just ludicrous. You're really grasping at straws when you try to say someone who's very healthy and very active that somehow or another he's got health problems. That's just ridiculous. Yeah. I think the health problem, keep in mind, it was not Joe Biden whose doctor told him to get a dementia test.
Right.
I mean, that was Donald Trump.
Right.
Why did he take the test?
That's a good point.
I mean, his doctor said take the test. So I don't think we want to get into that. And I would say to people, Joe has the capacity. He has experience. There's no question. He's not a spring chicken, but a lot of us aren't. Right. But he's got the capacity to govern, and he's got judgment. Mm-hmm. And he's not a mean person. He's a strong person,
right.
A very strong person in terms of what he believes and his convictions. But he's not a petty, mean person. Yep. We've had enough of that in this country. I mean, you ask yourself, who do you want your children? Who do you want to be the model for your children? I mean, the president is somebody that people look up to. They're supposed to.
Sure.
Who do you want to be your model the next 4 years? I mean, do you want it to be Donald Trump or Joe Biden? And I think Joe Biden would be a much better model for our kids. I mean, Joe Biden isn't cruel. He's not reckless. He's not indecent. He is someone who will bring America together, and we've never needed it more than we do now.
Senator, I want to talk to you about, and I'm the Trump supporter part of this radio show.
Great,
yeah,
great. Well,
but I want to talk to you.
It takes two to tango.
You're right. It absolutely does. But I wanted to talk to you about Kamala Harris, his vice president candidate, and you talk. A lot of the conversation has been about uniting, bringing both sides together, going bipartisan on issues. Well, Kamala Harris, and this is I want to get your thoughts on this, but Kamala Harris was the least likely senator the last 3 years to actually vote bipartisan on a bill. Let's say that something, and Joe Biden, he is 78 years old. Let's say that something happens let's say he wins the presidency and something happens to him a couple years into his presidency. Should that be something we should be worried about with Kamala Harris not making that conscious effort to unite the country, especially as it relates to Congress, considering the fact that she was not bipartisan for so long?
Yeah. I don't know who did those assessments. That's always a question when you get these scores. You say, well, who actually did that? Who said that? Who set up the criteria? So that's the first question I'd have. I have to see that. Second, anyone who's president of the United States at this time with this pandemic, with an economy that's really put millions of Americans out of work, with a global warming crisis, with division in our cities and violence, I think that a president who wants to succeed, and there's no doubt in my mind that she would want to succeed, has to bring people together. Yeah. You have to reach across that, and she's got a capacity to do that. She's extremely talented. She's someone who has a lot of experience, and I don't think that you vote against Joe Biden because you think Joe Biden isn't going to be there. He's going to be there for 4 years, and he's going to be a major contributor to uniting our country. the main contributor.
And Senator, that's our govtrack.us. That's who did that, assessment.
Senator, I agree with you on what you just said. And if people have those worries about Joe Biden, well, guess what? If they're voting for Trump, they should have those same worries because last I checked, Donald Trump is not 25 years old either. So I think that's a fair thing to say.
Right, he's 73, and he's the one that took the dementia test.
Exactly. And by the way, according to doctors, Donald Trump is labeled as obese. So I think the last thing people should do is question Joe Biden's health. I'm with you, Senator, 100%.
Barely obese.
Okay, so Senator, let's have a little fun here. We only have a few more minutes left. We don't have a lot of time with you, so let's go with you just mentioned talented people. You are a former Knickerbocker and an NBA Hall of Famer, so I have to ask you one or two basketball questions, if that's okay.
Go ahead, shoot.
All right. I love it, Senator. I love you. So first of all, what do you make of this NBA basketball season, this bubble? Do you think there's always going to be an asterisk next to whoever wins the championship? What do you make of what's going on now, particularly in the NBA?
Well, I remember back in 1994, there was a strike that cut off a big chunk of the season. But at the end, they had a champion, and so all you know is who won in 1994. And
yeah.
all you'll know now is who won in 2020. So I think that it's an unusual circumstance. I think that Adam Silver has played it exceedingly well. I mean, there has been one case of COVID, I think, in the bubble. And it's odd. Mm-hmm. It's odd playing. If you think about it, it's odd playing in an arena with no people. But that's what you do all the time when you're in practice.
Right.
There are pretty good practices going on. I'll tell you that.
Less distractions.
So
yeah.
I don't think it's going to be. I'm so glad that not a lot of players were injured. I was worried about that because how did they stay in shape through COVID?
Good point.
I'm speaking of somebody who had spent 65 days in his apartment and didn't leave in New York City. didn't get outside. So
you're telling me? Wait a second. You're telling me you and Phil Jackson back in the day weren't partying it up in Manhattan? Come on, Senator. Come on.
No. I said during COVID.
During COVID. Okay.
He said he didn't leave his place for 65 days.
I got you.
I was 65 days in my apartment, and I went out for the first time and had the wind and the sun, and I thought, where am I? You know?
I got you.
By the way, I also, during that period of time, watched The Last Decade, which was a great...
Yeah, that was awesome, wasn't it?
Very good,
great,
that was great.
Documentary, yeah.
That was great.
Phil came off real well in that.
It was great. So, Senator, what do you make of the Black Lives Matter era and how it intercedes with sports? I certainly have no problem with it. As a player yourself, how would you have handled this whole thing? I mean, you have Black Lives Matter signs everywhere, which I don't have a problem with. And then you hear people on the right that make the argument, oh, well, LeBron James doesn't care about black-on-black crime. LeBron James doesn't care if an officer gets shot and killed. What would you say to people like that, and what do you think of this era in the NBA with these Black Lives Matter signs everywhere?
Well, I applaud the courage and leadership of the NBA players and what they're showing. I think it's the best of what being a citizen means. For example, getting the owners to allow arenas to be places for people to vote in. That's huge. And I think the reason that it's so significant is that sports represents what's best about America, in my opinion. It's a model. It's a model for hard work. It's a model for discipline and for unselfishness and excellence, you know? And those aren't usually values you would associate with Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're right.
Unselfishness, excellence.
Yeah.
And so having the players so public pits his values, which I think are things like recklessness and cruelty,
sure,
against these values that I think are true American values of hard work and discipline and unselfishness. So, I mean, I think I look at this and I say, sports brings people together. That's what Joe Biden wants to do. It doesn't divide people, which is what Trump has done every day.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
I think it pushes us to be better.
I agree. I agree with you.
And I think it connects us to in a way, unlike anything else, connects us with teammates, with neighbors, with fellow Americans. You don't see people because they're for one team versus another team deciding they're going to go to war with each other.
Sure. No, I agree.
Because they have a commitment to the sport, the game. And that's what makes it. It's just like America, we should have a commitment to our country and to the institutions of our country.
Yeah.
And not try to destroy them.
Senator, I know you got to run. Last question, if I may, and we really do appreciate your time, Senator. I guess it's a two-part question. What did it mean to you? You just mentioned The Last Dance. What did it mean to you to have a guy like Michael Jordan endorse you in 2000? And my second and my second part to this question is, you challenged an incumbent vice president. Why did you not run again in 2004? I've always wanted to ask you that. So those are my two questions, and then we'll leave it at that.
Well, in terms of Michael, I think I was the only politician he ever endorsed.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah.
Did a commercial in Iowa. I was very happy with that. But, of course, I lost Iowa, so what can I tell you? And why I didn't run in 2004?
Yeah.
It seems like that's in the Paleolithic era right now. But, I'd been in politics for over 20 years, and I ran in 2000, and I didn't make it, and so I decided to move on in my life.
Sure, makes sense.
I still feel a deep commitment to the country and find ways that I can be helpful in many different ways.
Well, Senator, I have so much respect for you, and I wish you did win in 2000. I really do. I was a big supporter of yours, but I can't thank you enough for coming on this show. You are a legend, both in the political spectrum and as a basketball player, and we really do appreciate your time, Senator. I'd love to have you on again sometime down the road. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
I'm very happy to be here, and particularly since you are the only person in America other than me that know that Michael Jordan endorsed me.
That's funny. That's
See
funny.
you guys.
Thanks, Senator.
Thanks a lot, Senator.
I appreciate that.